Well, it's obviously a very serious event, but it's from an insurance company perspective, it's probably not that bad. We're talking, I've seen estimates are 3 to 5 billion in industry level losses. That obviously will show up in companies' earnings reports in the quarter, but probably not enough to dig into capital in any meaningful way. So an event that'll show up, but not one that has a really ginormous impact on the industry itself.
Which insurers do you expect it'll have the biggest impact on?
Well, a little bit depends upon how it all turns out, whether it's more flood than wind. But the usual suspects, it's going to be an Allstate, a State Farm, Travelers, Chubb, all those companies with the biggest market share in those territories will tend to have significant losses. It may also show up in the reinsurers, a Swiss Re, a Munich, a Berkshire Hathaway.
You say that it depends on where the damage originates, if it's from wind or if it's from flood. And that's because you really look at this from the commercial perspective versus the home perspective, right?
That's exactly right. Flood is not covered by most home insurers. It's a separate coverage provided by the government. And the more flooding you have, the more likely it is to be an event that is either covered by the individuals who just without insurance or by the federal government, and less by the insurance industry.
So when you look at that, again, you think that this is not a huge issue, but you do say it matters what the end result is. Will these insurers end up raising their rates eventually because of this?
Probably a little bit. There's generally a pressure on coastal property rates for a while. Last year was a very heavy year for catastrophe losses. This sort of puts an exclamation point on that. So I think in general you'll still see pressure on coastal properties, insurance rates for coastal properties, and this just is just another reminder that these kind of storms happen, and they happen often. And when Florence was looking like it was going to be a really big event, it was also a reminder that these can be potentially devastating, truly devastating events for the country.
What do you think about the National Flood Program? You mentioned that that's where a lot of this coverage picks up. How healthy is that program, and what do you think needs to be done?
Well, I'm sure it's healthy from a claims-paying perspective. It has essentially the backing of the U.S. government. But there are issues with how it's underwritten, whether or not the floodplains are accurately put together. It's not purchased as much as perhaps we would like. It's perhaps maybe 20% of the folks actually purchase it, so a lot of people go uncovered. So there are some issues here in terms of how well it functions to really protect people in these territories when the event happens, and that's this is a system that's been around for a long time now, so I don't know if it's going to change, but it definitely could be improved in a way that would encourage people to use it more.